Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we're going to go over how to install VMs on your computer. Now this is going to be universal for Windows or Mac. I'm on a Mac doing this, but it's the same steps on a Windows computer. Why would you use a VM? Well, VMs are very handy when you want to do something or test something, but you don't want to do it on a production environment, if you will. So let's get started real quick. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to download the VM manager called VirtualBox. 6.1 is the newest one as of this recording, so we'll just click on download, and we're on a if you're on a Windows computer, you're going to choose Windows host. If you're on a Mac, you're going to choose OS X, and if you're on Linux, you're going to try a Linux distribution. Okay, so that's downloaded. So we'll go ahead and install this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to double click the icon. Depending on what version of OS X you're on, you are probably going to get a lot of these pop-ups for security reasons. Yes, we're going to allow it. We're going to hit continue, hit install. We're going to type in your password. Okay, we're going to get this. These are all security pop-ups. So basically on Mac OS X or Mac OS, I guess it is now, a lot of these pop-ups are to allow programs to get to certain things in the system. You basically have to allow it to talk to the full file system. The next thing we're going to download, the extension pack. It's basically drivers and things like that to allow VirtualBox to work more like a real PC. First, we're going to go into our applications. We're going to open up VirtualBox. This is what you're going to see. The Windows version looks a little different, but it's basically the same thing. So we've got nothing over here because we have no VMs installed. We have no environments installed. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over here. We're going to install the extension pack. Yep, we read through it. Okay, so it was installed successfully. That's good to go. Now we can come over here, we can throw it away, get it out of our downloads. And now that we have this installed, now we need an actual environment to run. So to do that, we're going to just download a Linux distro. And I'm just going to download Ubuntu. So Ubuntu.com. So we're going to go to downloads, and Ubuntu desktop is what we're going to go to. This is the one we're going to download. You always want to do the long-term support version. Those are the ones that they actually keep updating, and you get security patches and stuff like that for it. So that's going to take a little bit to download. It's about 2.88 gigs. Okay, so that's finished downloading. So we're just going to minimize that. We're going to go back into VirtualBox. We're going to hit new. So we're going to type in Ubuntu Linux. Now Ubuntu is a very popular distro. As you can see, there's a lot of popular ones in here. Ubuntu is definitely one of them. This is the one that most people think of when they think of Linux, I think. Most people have used this distro when they want to try using Linux and stuff. And I use it a lot because right out of the box, it does most of the stuff I need it to do. For work and things like that, I use Kali Linux a lot more, but Ubuntu is great for people who are just learning and getting used to Linux. So we're going to type Ubuntu in there. You can put it wherever you want. I have no problem with it just installing it in my home folder. Linux is the type. That's so you can see you got Microsoft Windows, Solaris, Unix, this kind of stuff. So Linux is the type. And if there isn't a version in here of whatever you're trying to do, let's say you're doing like Pure OS. Well, Pure OS is actually built on Debian. So you could actually just you could put in Debian here. There's, a bunch of them have different underlayings of the distro, like Fedora, Debian, and things like that. We're going to hit continue. I'll give it 2 gigs of RAM because I've got a little bit to spare, and that it seems to run really well on 2 gigs of RAM. Create a virtual disk now. So I always just do this. The reason being is I have it create a virtual hard disk, and then it can dynamically allocate the resources as it needs it. VDI disk image. This is a VirtualBox disk image. This is what I usually run it in. I don't know off the top of my head the pros and cons of virtual machine disk and virtual hard disk and stuff like that. I've always just found that this seems to run the best on my system. So we're going to let it dynamically allocate. Now you can do a fixed size, but the problem with this is, let's say you do 10 gigs and as you start using this, it starts filling up and filling up. You're going to have to resize the disk. I just let it dynamically allocate it. That way it can do whatever it needs to do and I can fill it up as it goes. It's going to start out with 10 gigs. Your virtual environment is built. But there's one thing that we forgot to do when we built out this OS or this virtual environment. We forgot to put the operating system in it. So how do you do that? Okay, so we're going to come in here to settings. We're going to hit storage. This is I'm doing air quotes right now, your disk drive. As you can see, there's nothing in the disk drive. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to choose this and we need to choose disk file. And what are we going to do? Well, we downloaded it, so we need to go into downloads. We need to find Ubuntu. We need to open it. And we're basically loading this as a disk into our disk drive. Click OK. We're going to hit start. We're getting this error, kernel driver not installed. Well, this actually isn't right. What's going on with this is we're going to click OK. Hit reopen, click OK, OK. So all these errors that we were getting, what's going on with this? Well, actually everything's fine. What's going on is Apple has built in so much security into their operating system now. What's going on is that there's parts of the parts of VirtualBox that are being blocked by the operating system. So we're going to go up to the Apple, we're going to go to System Preferences, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to Security and Privacy. And as you can see down here, System Software from Developer Oracle America Incorporated has been updated. We got to allow this. So to allow, we're going to click the padlock, we're going to type in our local password, we're going to click allow, and what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to actually restart the computer itself after allowing that. Hey, welcome back. So we've restarted the computer. So we're going to go in here, we're going to open up VirtualBox, we're going to click start. We're going to close that out. Okay, so this is what comes up. Okay, it's telling you this is the file that's on there. This is our virtual optical disk as our disk drive. We're going to hit start. We're going to close out and cancel out all these stupid messages. So as we can see, we're starting to run. We're going to close out of that message also. So what are we doing right now? Well, the first thing we did was we built out an actual environment or a computer, if you will. And I'm doing air quotes again. A computer environment itself. Now what are we doing? Well, now we're loading an operating system onto that computer. And if you've never used Linux before, almost every Linux distro allows you to basically install or use as a live CD or to try it. So we can either try Ubuntu or we can install Ubuntu. Now, since we are going to be setting up a virtual environment, we don't want to try it, we want to install it. So we're going to hit install. We're going to go through, English, and continue. Download updates. Sure, we can download them. The third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi. This really pertains to an actual computer system. This is going to work just fine in a virtual environment because we can virtualize pretty much all the drivers, all the hardware. If you're installing this on an actual computer, there's certain drivers that are not going to be supported in Linux versus other things. So what this does is this looks for third-party devices and third-party software to run graphic devices and Wi-Fi and things like that. So I'm just going to leave this alone. We're going to do a normal install. We're going to download the updates. We're going to click continue. We can say erase disk and install. This is totally fine for a VM because we know what the hard drive actually is. We know it's not going to erase our hard drive. If you're doing this on a regular computer that you have partitioned the hard drive with like a Linux partition and a Windows partition, anything like that, you'd be very, very careful about this because if you pick the wrong thing, it's going to erase your entire disk. So if there's a Windows partition on there, it's going to erase it and it's going to write over it. So you might lose stuff. So just be aware of that if you're doing this on an actual computer. If you're doing it on a VM, totally fine. Erase the disk and install it. Okay, where are we? Well, Denver, we're over by Boise. Let's click on continue. We're just going to set up a test account. That's all we need. Apparently I can't. Password. Log in automatically. Now you can change that however you want. Okay, so the installation is complete. We're going to hit restart. And let's jump back over to this. So we're not going to set up any accounts, live patch. No, we don't need any of that. Nope. We're not sending any info to anybody. Nope, don't use location services, and done. Okay, so now we've got a working operating system. Well, I hope this helps. We're going to be creating VMs in this on this YouTube channel a lot, because we're going to be using like Kali Linux, and we're going to be using Pure OS, we're going to be using Metasploitable, we're going to be using a lot of these different operating systems and these Linux distros for hacking tutorials. We're going to use them for all kinds of different things like that. I hope this was informative, and I hope you guys learned something, and I will see you guys in the next video.